What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. I'm joined by Tyler, and we're here today to talk about why The Last of Us Part 2 actually will have multiplayer. I don't believe them. I don't believe Naughty Dog. I think they're lying to us in a smart way, and I'm going to give it to Tyler later to talk about why. We do understand where they're coming from, but just to start this off, firstly, we've had videos in the past. We talked a lot about its story. We're going to be starting up a community series in a couple months, and we're recording this literally a couple hours after the media got to formally talk about and show a little bit of what they played at that LA event. And one of the main things to actually come out a little bit after that was that they've basically, or Naughty Dog has confirmed that it's not going to be in it. Multiplayer will not be in the game. A Sony representative also backed up that statement that said it's just a single-player game. Now, I'm going to go first here. I just want to say, when I read that, the first thing I tweeted Tyler is, I don't buy it. I don't believe it whatsoever. And here's some of the reasons why. Firstly, we heard, and they did make note of this, a couple of the articles are making note of this, that last year we did hear rumors that The Last of Us multiplayer, or the multiplayer, is going to return in the game. But we also know that they've hired people in their multiplayer department. We also know that they had multiplayer, or people specifically hired for multiplayer aspects. And you could say, well, they could switch them over and maybe they could work on something else. Yeah, but some specialists, if you're hired to do a specific role, especially in game development, you tend to want to keep them in that role. So you look at Uncharted 4, which was the last multiplayer huge thing that happened with them. They have a whole team. They have a whole group of people that make this multiplayer. And I didn't hear anything about Naughty Dog firing a fifth, a sixth of their staff, which would probably be around where the amount of people that would be working on a multiplayer experience. We never heard anything about a massive layoff from Naughty Dog. If anything, we've heard that they've hired more and more people. That's what game developers do as they ramp up their game. Another thing is you also look at fans, and you do have to look at them. I know at some point or at some level for games and game developers, you have to say, well, we need to tell our story. We need to do what we want to do or have to do, and we just have to hope that our fans are going to follow. But you look at people's reactions, and they're not happy, and rightly so. Uncharted, the way Uncharted's multiplayer went, it got better and better every single game. And I was telling Tyler right before we record this, in some ways, and I think this could happen for The Last of Us, in some ways the multiplayer really highlighted, especially in Uncharted 4, the grappling hook. I think the grappling hook was at its best in multiplayer, not actually in the main game. The AI, yeah, they're sophisticated. Naughty Dog does a really good job with them, but the way you could line up attacks and just the way they actually did the levels, even their linear levels, it was hard to really make grappling. And I thought the hook was really, really fun. But in multiplayer, it's faster, it's more dynamic, it's just more creative. And so I think in a lot of ways, the multiplayer highlights some of the gameplay aspects. We have a lot of updated and added gameplay aspects in The Last of Us Part 2 that I think they can it's going to be different. It's not going to have that heavy, tense feeling because there's less pressure on you in multiplayer. You're going to get killed and kind of respawn in that kind of way. So it's going to be a little different. And I think in a way that's a good thing. But you look at fans, they're not happy. Uncharted 4's multiplayer did phenomenal in terms of people playing it. The Last of Us Remastered has still an insane amount of people playing it. You see that they're going to have that game as the PlayStation Plus free game of the month, and they're expecting that the servers are going to have a lot more people because they're going to play the multiplayer. Now, again, I'm going to hand over to Tyler for why it makes sense, but here's the end of the story. I don't believe them. I think they're lying. Is it going to come out like within the day, within a month of The Last of Us Part 2? No. And Tyler said it really well to me that he thinks it's going the Red Dead route. I agree. I think that it's not going to come out right away, but we are 100%. You can just quote me. This is my prediction. I believe we're going to get The Last of Us Part 2's multiplayer later. Maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months, maybe for the launch of PS5, maybe if they do a Game of the Year edition for PS5, whatever. I think they're eventually going to add multiplayer. It's too big. They factually have people there that probably only work on multiplayer aspects that are not fired, so I guess they're just sitting there doing nothing. There's just no way. Game developers, we've said it before, and I'll say it again, they lie all the time. Naughty Dog literally has, and Naughty Dog's a perfect example because they're the one doing this. Remember how they said you will not play as Ellie in The Last of Us, you just play as Joel the whole time. Well, that was a lie. Rocksteady. Rocksteady said that the Arkham Knight, or Arkham Knight in general, that entire story, it's not Jason Todd. It's their own telling of it. Get ready for something different. It was literally Jason Todd and the telling of the Arkham Knight. I get those are stories. I get that single-player stuff, but game developers lie all the time because they want you to focus on what they want you to focus on. They want you right now to focus on single-player, so you'll focus on single-player. Naughty Dog is the best at that. They have, I'm sure big things happen in this game that we will not know about till the day the game comes out. They're that good at hiding things, and this is just another one of their ways of doing it. They don't want us focusing on multiplayer. This is the biggest game they've ever made. This is the most groundbreaking story they've ever done. They want you to focus on that for right now, and that's completely cool. I'm buying it first and foremost for the story. I'll play the multiplayer when it comes out. If they want to give it to me in 6 months afterwards, I'll play it. But I 100% think multiplayer is coming. I think they're lying. Tyler, what do you think?
Yeah, there is no way. And I was looking at, by the way, the comments because on Twitter I just found a tweet by US GamerNet, and it says The Last of Us 2 or Part 2 won't have multiplayer at all. Every comment but one, and there's hundreds, is this killed my hype. This is the worst decision Naughty Dog ever made. This is somehow both disappointing and encouraging at the same time. No. There's a lot of negative reaction to this, and I get that because the first multiplayer was really, really good. And I don't believe that they're not going to have multiplayer in Part 2. I just don't. Just like Alex said, they're definitely trying to focus, and I don't blame them. I mean, if you ask me, their game, The Last of Us, is the greatest video game story to ever be told. Not so much about maybe the story itself, but the whole thing of it, the whole the first game, how it plays, just everything about it, the world, all of that stuff, is definitely it was a groundbreaking thing then. There's a lot of new games that have come out this year, last year, whatever, still are nowhere near. They're not even close to that same level. And now we have Part 2 coming out, which will likely surpass the first, and it'll be another round of, okay, now we got to wait for the third one because nobody's ever going to top this, which is great. It's coming on 2 discs if you buy it on disc. 2 discs. The story's their largest story they've ever done. All these new features that you probably are reading about. If you kill somebody, they'll shout out Bill, and so the NPCs, essentially they want you to feel bad when you kill somebody. They want you, the player, to have a moral compass. They want you to be shaken when you play. You almost don't want to kill the people because who knows? I assume they're not just going to say Bill. They might be I don't even know what they would say, but it might be something like Bill or you just killed my best friend or whatever they might say. And you could probably, in your head, imagine some kind of line, right? And that's something that I don't think's ever really been done because it wouldn't really be. I don't think it would really be all that scripted. I think it would be kind of more natural. I don't think that when I kill Bill, it'll be the same. Kill Bill. That's funny because that's a reference. But I think when Alex kills Bill, I think it might be a different person, different looking person at a different time in the game than when I kill a Bill. That's how I'm thinking it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be all scripted stuff. I think it's going to be all kind of generated in a way, which is amazing. So they want that kind of thing, that her Ellie's descent into kind of darkness, into vengeance. They want her story to be the center of it. It's what they've been focusing on. This is literally, it's Part 2 to the first game. They don't want to take away from the story. They don't want to take away from the story that they've crafted. They don't want to take away from the character changing over however many years it's been. It's been a number of years in game. The features like we just talked about, and there's more features than that, but that's a bigger one. They want us to be talking about that and looking forward to that kind of stuff, the story and everything around that. They don't want us looking at, well, maybe I'll play an hour of that here and there, and then I'm going to play multiplayer mostly, and then maybe I'll come back to the story in a couple months. They don't want that to happen. That's why I think they're going to go the Red Dead route. And Red Dead came out in October. The multiplayer came out in March. And they literally said that the reason is because they wanted people to focus on the story. They spent a lot of time crafting the story and putting it all together, and they wanted people to have time to play it. And it would also kind of, in a way, help with when you hop into multiplayer. Now you already know how to play the game because you literally just played however many hours in the story. You're not going to have varying levels of people, playing in the multiplayer. People who are experienced and people who are not. But I don't think for The Last of Us Part 2, I don't think it's going to be 6 months. I think it literally would be about a year. I think almost a year later. They'll announce it before that. They'll probably announce it about 5-6 months in. But I don't think I don't think we're going to see The Last of Us Part 2 multiplayer, or probably The Last of Us Factions Part 2, or whatever they want to call that. I don't think we're going to see that until literally February of 2021. And it would probably be a dual release across PS4 and PS5. They definitely want to wait because they know there's a lot of people that don't currently have a PlayStation 4 that probably will be getting a PlayStation 5 because no matter what, Xbox just hasn't brought it. And there's going to be a lot of people who get a PlayStation 5. They know the PlayStation 5 is close if they're into gaming, so they're not going to go get a PlayStation 4. So you're going to have people in November of 2020, so in about a year, you're going to have people coming from a console where they never could have played The Last of Us 1, and they could have, unless they had PS3, but mostly they couldn't play The Last of Us Part 1, and they couldn't play Part 2 because they didn't have a PlayStation 4. PlayStation 5 comes out, they get a PlayStation 5, and then they play either The Last of Us or The Last of Us Part 2, either one or both on PlayStation 5. And then it gives them time people to buy at Christmas and whatever. Then they play the story, and now you'll kind of have more of a full, pretty much who's going to get the game will have it at that point. They'll be experienced enough where when you roll out the multiplayer, it's going to be kind of like an even playing field, if that makes sense. So, and again, it lets a lot of people get to play the story and only the story and focus only on the story and talk about the story and look forward to the next story because you're giving them around 12 months to do that. I think that kind of makes sense. I really do.
So let us know in the comments below, guys. Do you believe Naughty Dog? Do you think that there actually will never be a Last of Us Part 2 multiplayer? Or do you think it's just something that they don't want you to focus on now that'll maybe come later? Let us know. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel podcast. Now hit that bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. And again, we're going to be ramping up our Last of Us Part 2 coverage. We're going to be starting our community series in December, leading into the game releasing on February 21st. Tyler and I are both very, very excited, and lots of Last of Us videos to come. So thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you all on the next video.